Welcome a man who never likes to avoid controversy for too long. Rod Liddle, Associate Editor at The Spectator and Sunday Times columnist as well. He joins us right now. Good morning to you, Rod.
Good morning, Julia. How are you doing?
I'm very well indeed. You've been getting yourself in trouble again lately, haven't you? As you are wont to do with your free thinking and free wording. You got in trouble with the University of Durham. First up with the students who decided they didn't like what you were saying at a dinner you were invited to, and then you've seen yourself getting in trouble with an awful lot of the academics who've backed the students. We've now got academics and college heads at Durham University now calling for basically the sacking, along with the students, of the man who invited you, Tim Luckhurst, and it's all gone rather extreme. Can we just establish, what did you actually say at this dinner at Durham University that caused so much upset?
It was a speech about the importance of listening to other people's opinions and having tolerance for other points of view.
That went down well then.
Yeah, it went down really well. And having doubt. Well, it did go down well. It went down perfectly reasonably with the vast majority of people there. There were about 250 people at this dinner, I think. And about 15 to 20, something like that, walked out before I'd started speaking. The reason this story took so long to break, because the actual speech was on a Friday evening.
December the 3rd, yeah.
Yeah, the left didn't get themselves worked up about it until the Monday or Tuesday, because they'd walked out and hadn't heard what I had to say. So I think it's an object lesson for the lefties. It's far better to actually stay and listen to what someone's saying. Then you can get really cross about it, rather than assuming what they're going to say and guessing what they might have to say. So there was that problem. It didn't go down very well with a small minority.
But I understand you have received warm applause from everybody else who remained. Now, among the controversial things you were saying were things like the left was going against science or pure facts, saying, for instance, a person with an X and a Y chromosome that has a penis is scientifically a man, and that is pretty much scientifically the end of the story. Not controversial to the vast majority of people, I would argue. You talked about issues in terms of colonialism and other issues. You also joked that you were disappointed not to see any sex workers at the event because University of Durham has been providing safety training for students working as sex workers. I have to say, I'm gutted I didn't go to the dinner. It sounds like it was a very interesting talk. But this is...
It was okay. I mean, what you say, I said controversial things. I made 3 points as part of this speech about the importance of tolerance and listening to other people's points of view. I picked 3 things which I knew they kind of wouldn't agree with, but which I believe in. One is that someone who transitions to being a woman from being a man shouldn't suffer discrimination, shouldn't suffer any inequality, but isn't actually a woman. And as you say, I think most people in the country think that, but then also that colonialism isn't the sole cause of Africa's problems. I mean, I think that's close to incontestable.
Yep.
And finally, that underachievement among black people in this country and in America, African Caribbeans and British Caribbean people, isn't primarily a consequence of structural racism, but is down to much, much more complex factors such as class and things like that.
Okay.
So, and I posited those ideas and said, look, that's what I think, but I'm often wrong,
But you presumably would have been quite happy to have a good old heated debate over the glasses of port and coffee at the end of the dinner with those who disagreed with you.
Well, that's the interesting thing. As I was walking out, one of the people who'd walked out shouted out disgusting at me.
Yes, come on, that must happen to you all the time.
Well, I am disgusting. There's no question about that. But I went back in to see what specifically it was about me on this occasion that he found disgusting. And I had a rational chat with him. And I said, you and I want the same things about transgenderism. We want transgender people to have living dignity and without discrimination. We differ on just one thing. And we went, and I could see this incredible confusion in this guy's face. He couldn't quite compute that here was the fount of all evil, actually having a rational and affable discussion with him. And it was like talking to someone from a cult.
Yeah, but that is what it is. But this has got much more serious. Look, you're used to having these sort of controversies around you because people seem to get upset by everything you say. You make a small joke about the Welsh in your column, which is clearly a joke, and then everyone's up in arms, people demanding your sacking. Demanding sacking seems to be this, a daily occurrence for a lot of people. But Tim Luckhurst, the man who's invited you, is the head of South College, part of Durham University. He invited you to speak, and he did actually shout pathetic at the students who walked out, as indeed would I have done if I had been there. And he's since been forced to apologise. He's now facing calls for his own sacking simply for having invited someone who some people at the dinner didn't want to hear from. This is where it gets very serious, isn't it? Because, you and I, we're old enough and ugly enough to cope with these things. And I've interviewed Tim Luckhurst many times on the show. Someone who's an academic, someone who's working in academia now, the pressure on them to stay quiet when these issues are raised, the pressure on them to not cause any controversy because they will lose their livelihoods is immense right now. And it's having a chilling effect on freedom of speech.
Yes, the whole problem isn't with the kids. I expected people to object to the speech, some of them. I expected the left to be cross about it. But what I didn't expect was the craven and despicable attitude of the college authorities, that they would persecute a guy simply for having invited someone who divulged views which a small minority could not agree with. And that's all it was. And it's in Durham's constitution that they believe fervently. They always say this: we believe fervently in freedom of speech. No matter what people are saying, no matter what is being said, we believe that our students should be exposed to views from outside which are challenging, controversial, and different. And having said that they believe in all that, they then immediately contradict themselves and say that I shouldn't have been invited because I said something with which a minority of those students there, or maybe a majority, I don't know, disagreed. I mean, it is absurd, and it's very, very bad. No social conservative, I mean, on economic issues, I'm probably to the left of many of those students, but no social conservatives would ever be invited to a university again for the simple reason that they'll be sacked, that the person who invites them will be sacked.
And that's the thing. We had this over, polling showing, on Brexit, you couldn't be, if you're a university lecturer or academic of any sort, you can't admit that you voted for Brexit. You can't admit you voted for Conservatives. We've seen, incredible, absolutely outrageous treatment of academics over the issue of trans at Sussex University, Kathleen Stock, her own trade union, siding with the students making verbal and physical threats to her, as opposed to siding with their member. This is no longer just a funny little story that you might read about in a satirical magazine. This is now very real. This is about people's livelihoods, and it is about people feeling they can't speak out at all and say what most people would regard as common sense, fact-based, widely held opinions. What do we do about it?
No, indeed, I don't know what we do about it. I think it would be good if the government got involved with our universities with a bit more rigour and interest, because universities should be places of liberal education where we have a vast array of views which challenge established shibboleths, which expose people to things they perhaps never thought about before. Instead, these academics are promoting a monoculture where everybody thinks exactly the same thing. And that is damaging not merely for the students, it's damaging for society, because these people later go on, of course, to work in McDonald's and service burgers, and may do so, from a position whereby they don't really understand what's going on in the world. Because it must be very frightening for them once they leave university to suddenly find out that the views which I've expressed are probably held by about 70% of the population.
God knows how they get through a family Christmas with the relatives. That's what I would wonder. So good to talk to you. Look, keep upsetting people, Roald. It's what you do best.